Alright guys, we are getting ready to process some 4x5 color film. So you can see I've got the temperature all set for the developer and the Blix. It's all up to its nice warm temperature. And I've got my Patterson tank right here all dialed up, ready to go and loaded. Next step is to add the developer. Alright, it's like we're foreshadowing here, making sure that lid is nice and tight and giving it the full rotation to make sure that developer chemical hits all the negatives. Slamming the container on the counter a few times, making sure all the air bubbles are out, and then now in between rotations, letting the tank sit in the warm water bath. And as you guys are rotating, do make sure to give those full inversions. And do make sure to keep your tank in the warm bath when you're not giving it the inversion rotations. And once you finish the rotations on the development time, then we're going to go ahead and dump it out. We're going to get ready to pour the next step in, which is the Blix that we've already mixed up and have warm and waiting. All that developer, make sure it's out as much as we can, and now we're gonna pour the Blix into the container. And next we're getting ready to start those rotations on the Blix. This is where it all goes wonky. Wait for it. Wait for it. Wait for it. Alright, so I very frustratedly lost some of the Blix chemical. It spilled out of the top of the lid of my Patterson tank, and after figuring out what happened later, I realized that the heat, because we're using such warm chemicals, the heat was causing the lid not to seal in the way I'm used to it, because working with black and white chemicals, you're working with much lower temperatures, like around 70 degrees or just under, but working with these color chemicals, you're well over 100 degrees, and so that causes an expansion just from the heat of the liquid that I'm not used to. And so what I found is that when dealing with my rotations, I had to be a lot more ginger, a lot more careful, and I had to keep double checking that lid, releasing pressure and retightening in between inversions. So learn from my mistake. That's what did not go well. Alright guys, just finishing up those rotations on that Blix. I'm going to crack that lid off and celebrate because we survived. We did it. Shake that bad boy off, and then now we're going to go ahead and put the Blix chemical back into the pitcher, and then we're going to go ahead and take that and return that mixed chemical into the storage container, because, and we did this with the developer too, I just didn't show you guys on camera, but we're going to be able to reuse those chemicals and store them for another time. So pay attention inside the instructions that you get with the chemical mix, because it does tell you how much usage you can get for the size of the film that you're using. So like 35, you're going to get more uses than you would with 4x5, like what I'm using here. Next, we're going to go ahead and start the cleanup process, which I found actually relatively easy. It's just a quick rinse on the device, on the holder that attaches to the device, and then cleaning out the tub. But now, because of my wonderful mess, my cleanup's going to take me just a tad bit longer. Now that I've got everything out, the big reveal. So this is the container device doohickey thing that holds my negatives, my 4x5s, when they're in the Patterson tank. And now I'm just removing each of the negatives from the holder. It holds 6 of them, and the whole setup for the tank and that reel is about $100, give or take, and it works fantastic. Notice the Care Bears rag. And here's some quick phone scans I did with an app, just to get an idea of what the positives look like. Super grainy, but there is an image there. Hooray! Call it a success.
Okay, so I just survived processing my first color negatives ever. And I've been doing this photo thing for a long time, so that was a big thing. And it was a lot. I've been consistently processing my own black and white and printing my own black and white for the past 2 years regularly, on top of having a history of doing it years ago. And so processing black and white at this point just feels like I don't know. It feels normal, it feels easy, it feels intuitive, that's the word I'm looking for. So I was expecting that with just a few minor tweaks that this process was also going to feel very intuitive, and I felt like a fish out of water. I know a lot of it was user error and just learning curve, but the curve was steeper than I expected it to be, and I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway from this. And so while it was just like a 2-bath system plus a long rinse, I underestimated a couple of things. A, how long it was going to take me. I didn't expect it to be quite that much of an endeavor. 2, the second thing that I underestimated was how much counter space I was going to need. I'm used to, with black and white negative processing, using a very small footprint, like a 3x3 square, and I'm getting everything in and out, rinsed, all that kind of stuff. So when I had my little 3x3 space on my bathroom counter right next to the sink, I was like, oh, that's super comparable to what I process black and white in. It should be the same, but I just felt like I was fumbling all over, cursing like a sailor because I was so frustrated at times. And another thing, probably the third thing that I underestimated, was the heat differential, because we're working with much higher temperatures in processing color. It was changing the expansion inside my Patterson lid, inside the tank that I've used over and over and over and over again with no problems ever, and it kept opening and exploding on me, which was not my favorite. So you don't get to hear the audio of me actually processing this, because I was super upset, super frustrated, because it just took me by surprise. The lid cracked open and it just, there's Blix all over my bathroom. But it's cleanable, it's fine, not a big deal. But anyway, so it just really underestimated the kind of intensity of this whole developing color negative film in my bathroom. All that to say that the CineStill film powder kit was relatively easy to use. I think once I use it a couple more times, I'm going to come back and do another review and let you know how it goes now that I've kind of walked through the process. But I did want you to see the unfiltered, unedited, unpracticed version, because if you're like me and you get this kit and you have all these high expectations and you get in the bathroom or the kitchen or wherever you're doing it, highly recommend bathroom over kitchen, food contamination, etc. I didn't want you to have the rude awakening that I perhaps had. And I'm someone who has a good amount of experience. So if you're really starting out, you're really a beginner, I want you to be prepared. You're gonna need a lot of time. Give yourself, I think I spent easily 45 minutes from mixing the chemicals to processing the negatives. So give yourself a lot of time. Also, I will say I loved the CineStill, the temperature control system, that the times were automatically input into the system. So I didn't have to fiddle with trying to reset the times, because they were at the suggested both temperature, preset, and time for the developer and the Blix. But I will say that if this is really one of your first times processing anything, or if you haven't processed color like me, I might recommend actually taking down the temperature so that you can slow down, because the cooler your baths are, the cooler your chemicals are, the longer they have to sit in the film tank, processing. And that's actually a huge advantage when you're first starting out. Now, the nice thing is once you're comfortable with it, I imagine in the future for myself that the short development time and the short comparatively Blix time to the 3-bath process I'm used to using for black and white will be a breeze and will make it such a wonderful, easy, awesome thing. But for the first time, it might be worth setting things a little cooler so that way you have more time in between things so that you can rinse out containers, get things set on the counter, and not be trying to go before things get wonky. So anyway, I underestimated a few things, as I mentioned, but overall, I got, I think, successful negatives. So I'm gonna be scanning those tomorrow, and I'll come back and let you guys know how the scans went and what that looks like. But for all the crisis and cursing involved, I did walk away with process color negatives. Now, am I super excited to go in and do my next batch right now like I thought I was gonna be because I have an entire box of C-41 that needs to be processed? No. I need to go grab a cup of coffee and take a hot minute and maybe try again tomorrow. Now that my chemicals are mixed, I can reuse them multiple times, so I don't have to remix chemicals. I don't have to purchase new chemicals. I get to reuse what I already mixed, so I'm imagining will be at least half the time and half the chaos when I go to develop my next batch. One other thing, in case I forget to mention it elsewhere, I didn't show you in the beginning setup that you will need a film changing bag. So make sure you have that, or a completely sealed off dark room, like no light coming in under the door or through the window cracks, like completely sealed off dark room, or a changing bag. Changing bag is great because you can sit wherever you want and load your film into whatever container you're processing in. So I just want to give you a quick look at what mine is. So this is one of the changing bags. This is the one that I use. It has a 2-zipper system to put your stuff in. And you just make sure both zippers are fully zipped before you get started. Zipper 1, and then you have the outer zipper. Zipper 2, make sure they are all the way on both zippers, otherwise you can get light leaks, and light leaks will damage your film, so zip, zip, zip. Also, if you wear a device like this, make sure to take it off before you put your hands inside the film changing bag, because if that little thing, if you forget to put it on theater mode or whatever mode turns off the screen for you, or if you accidentally tap it while you're inside, the light from that can damage your film. Doesn't always, it's not a guarantee that it'll be ruined, but it's just better not to. So take off your watch. And then you stick your hands inside these things all the way up to the elbow. Don't shortcut that. And then you'll be working inside the bag. So in the future, I'll do a video on how to change your film in a bag like that, no matter where you are. But for today's purposes, just make sure you have those supplies before you get started. So I'll see you guys soon.